So this is part 2 of my how to fix the Jets videos. I made the first video on offense. If you haven't seen that video, the one I made on offense for the Jets, go watch it now before this because that one will help add some context to this. It's about a 20-minute video. It kind of explains the entire thing of why I'm doing this. This is going to be a shorter video because it just covers the defense. I didn't want to make a 40-minute or like 35-minute video, or I don't even know. But I decided to just combine the two videos. They're going up at the same time, so they'll both be out at the same time. So, and if you've already watched that video and coming here to watch this, thank you. So we're gonna talk about the Jets defense and how we can improve it, of course. So let's get started. Also, I hope you guys like the my new slides. Those things take forever to get correct. And also any stats that I mentioned in the video for a player, they're from 2016. I think I put in each of the slides for all the stats because I've made a bunch of slides here. You see on the screen right now, or we'll see in a few minutes. The stats that I'm putting for the player, our players, they're from 2016 or their last year of play, basically. They're not their career stats. So yeah. Now let's start with the Jets defensive line because that's what most people look at, and the Jets actually have a really good defensive line. It's led by the big cat, Leonard Williams, 22 years old. This guy was drafted a few years ago, and the Jets got a steal. They got a beast. A beast. Now, this year, he played 16 games. He led the Jets in sacks with 7, and he had 36 solo, 32 assisted, and 68 total tackles. He also forced 2 fumbles in this year. So, of course, Leonard Williams, enough said. I mean, I don't really know. I think he's a nose tackle. I think that's what the website, I think that's what he is, but I thought he was a defensive end. Now, moving on to the defensive ends, and these two guys, Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson, they in previous years were pass rushers, like elite pass rushers. Now, let's look at Muhammad Wilkerson's stats. Now, he came off of an injury. He's 27 years old. And in 15 games played, he had 4.5 sacks, which is actually the worst since his rookie year. And considering he had 12 last year, it's quite a downer. He also forced 1 fumble. He had 33 solo, 25 assisted, in total 58 total tackles, and only 15 games played. I don't know, I put that twice. But Muhammad Wilkerson, again, had a kind of an off year for the Jets. I mean, he is one of our best pass rushers, so. And Sheldon Richardson, age 26, is in 15 games played. He only had 1.5 sack, which is the career worst. He also had 38 solo, 24 assisted, and 62 total tackles. He also forced 1 fumble. So, again, the Jets' defensive line is the best part of the team. But, of course, they weren't able to really do much this year in terms of, like, because Richardson, I think, partially Richardson and Wilkerson had kind of off years. Wilkerson off the injury, Richardson off, I don't know. Of course, the Snapchat video thing, very controversial. So, but drop the base. The Jets' defensive line is very good. And one guy I haven't mentioned yet, and that is someone that you don't look at when you look at this defensive line, but he's actually pretty good, Steve McLendon. He's the oldest member of the D-line with 30 years of age. He's only played in 11 games this year, but in those games, he forced 1 fumble, had 3.5 sacks, 20 solo, 8 assisted, 28 total tackles. He only played in 11 games this year. So, looking at it, I mean, if he played total 16 games and kept on the same pace, he would have had a total of 5 sacks, which would have been second on the Jets. So, again, of course, great year. I mean, the Jets' defensive line, if I'm the Jets, maybe one of these guys gets moved out. If for me, that's probably Richardson. But you do have a lot of studs in this D-line, and that's what the Jets need to do. They need to get pass rush. That's what the Jets need to do. They need to have their pass rush carry them on defense, really. And, they're amazing. Like, we're unstoppable. Now, moving on to options for the defensive line. Of course, you could always keep the line. I mean, does it really need to be upgraded? No, I really don't think. I think Wilkerson just had an off year. I think he'll have a comeback. Well, there's a comeback player of the year award in football, but I think he's gonna have a comeback year. Richardson might have a good year. It all depends. If the Jets can get going in other positions, then I think the D line will step up. They'll get to the quarterbacks. That's the big thing. If they can get a good pass rush, that'll be huge for the Jets. Now, if the Jets decide they want to move one of these guys, there are many talented D linemen. Now, the top prospects in the draft are defensive linemen. Of course, quarterbacks are always there, but take the quarterbacks out, it's D linemen. I mean, you have Jonathan Allen And what's the other guy's name? I can't remember the other guy's name. The other defensive lineman. So the Jets could always find D linemen in the draft. But you really need to draft D linemen when you already have such a great D line, and also you have so many other positions that you have needs. Even if you trade one of these guys, yeah. But the big guy and the guy I think that might be traded is Sheldon Richardson. Of course, the Snapchat video he had kind of got him in trouble. Same thing happened similar to Antonio Brown with the Facebook post. So Sheldon Richardson, of course, was an elite pass rusher for the Jets. But of course, he kind of had an off year. He only had 1.5 sacks, which is his career worst. So he's getting if the Jets really, if the Jets don't give him another chance, if he does get another chance, hopefully he does perform well. But if the Jets don't decide to give him another chance, I mean he performed pretty well in Week 17. But if the Jets don't give him another chance, he could be traded to many teams for things the Jets need, like a cornerback, a pass rushing linebacker, a quarterback, some alignment. Yeah. Now moving on to linebackers, we've got their stats. So the Jets' main three linebackers are David Harris, Darren Lee, and Lorenzo Mauldin. Now, I think Lorenzo Mauldin the fourth. I think that's his full name. I'm not sure, but that's his name in Madden. So, yeah. But David Harris, age 32, he's getting up there in age. He's played 15 games this year. He had 2 pass deflections. He had half a sack, 62 solo tackles, 32 assisted tackles, and 94 total tackles, which leads the Jets. So obviously, David Harris, great tackling, run-stopping linebacker. Big part of the Jets team. Pretty underrated, to be honest. He led the Jets in tackles with 94, of course. Great player for the Jets. Darren Lee, their rookie that they drafted, I believe, in 2015. 2016 draft. 2016 draft. He played 13 games. He's 22 years old. He had 2 pass deflections. He had 1 sack. He had 42 solo tackles, 28 assisted tackles, and 70 total tackles. He is really more of a coverage linebacker. He's not really a pass rusher or run stop. He's a coverage linebacker, which could come in handy if the Jets develop him well enough. He might be able to cover someone like Gronk. Doubt it, but who knows? Maybe he turns into a beast, and Gronk might not be able to do anything when he plays the Jets next time. And Lorenzo Mauldin, who is probably one of the Jets, the Jets' best pass rusher in terms of linebackers. Not their best pass rusher, but their best, in terms of their linebackers, is Lorenzo Mauldin, of course. I just said his name. He's 24 years old, so he's pretty young. He's only played in 11 games. He had 1 interception. He had 2 pass deflections, 2.5 sacks, 7 solo tackles, 9 assisted tackles, and 16 total tackles. So, again, if you want to look at it in another way, you can. Well, I mean, you could look at it as he would have had around 3.5 sacks if he played all 16 games, which, yeah. So Lorenzo Mauldin, again, another player the Jets could try and develop more. Of course, the Jets could always go after a pass rushing outside linebacker, and this is the importance of having a pass rushing outside linebacker. And let's look at the last 2 years. I mean, 2015 was dominated by defensive ends like J.J. Watt and those guys and Ron Wilkerson. So let's take a look at the leaders in sacks this year. 2016-17 season sack leaders. Number 1 is Vic Beasley with 15.5. Number 2 is Von Miller with 13.5. Number 3 is Lorenzo Alexander. Actually, the third or fourth one, I can't remember. I know there is one defensive end in the top 6, but the following guys are all in the top 6. There's 5 of the top 6 sack leaders are outside linebackers. Of course, Lorenzo Alexander with 12.5 and Marcus Golden with 12.4. Actually, no, 4 of the top 5, I should say, are outside linebackers, I believe. So, again, sack. Of course, J.J. Watt was injured. That probably would have had around, maybe led the league in sacks. And looking at 2014, you have Justin Houston with 22 sacks, leading the league. Then second was defensive end J.J. Watt with 20.5. Then you had Elvis Dumerville, the outside linebacker, with 17. Connor Barwin, outside linebacker, with 14.5. And Von Miller, outside linebacker, with 14. So, again, 2 of the last 3 years have been dominated by outside linebackers and their ability to pass rush. So, they get more sacks, and this is my little theory. They get more sacks because they rush on the edge. That way, when they have more room for finesse moves. Because if you're rushing on the inside and you do a finesse move, you might be able to get past the center, but there's a good chance the guard might pick you up, because the guard is right there. I mean, yeah, the guard is right there. I mean, no matter which way you turn, there's going to be an alignment around you. But if you're going up against a tackle, if you make a move, like a finesse move to the outside, there is no one there blocking unless the running back is blocking, and you got a free, and the quarterback can't see you. If you go right up the middle, quarterback is normally looking up the middle. He'll probably see you, but if you're going around the edge, quarterback won't see you, and you can get a sack on him. And the quarterback won't throw it away. You won't escape the pocket. Also, a lot of times, if it's defensive ends are rushing, and the defensive ends can attack the tackles and can get the tackles to focus on them, the outside linebackers might be able to get to the outside and get to the quarterback. Yeah, so let's go look at options for linebackers. We've got draft Jabril Peppers. This guy is listed as an outside linebacker. He is also listed as a defensive back or safety. So I don't know really which one he is. I mean, he's played all three in his career, I believe. He's played cornerback, defensive back, safety, and linebacker. Now, he's listed to go 4th overall in the mock drafts, which there's in the description, there's a bunch of sources I used to make the video. And a bunch of them are mock drafts. Now, in the mock drafts that I have listed below, he's listed to go 4th, 6th, 12th, 19th, 19th, and 28th. Those are the positions that he's listed. Of course, I don't really watch much college football, and I don't really, like tend to have a good eye for these things, so I just go by what these mock drafts say. And his stats, he had 3 sacks, 1 interception, and 66 total tackles in 2016, which is pretty good. There's also another guy the Jets could draft called Charles Harris. He's also listed as an outside linebacker, but also a defensive end. He's listed to go 29th and 34th, which means maybe he might slip and the Jets might be able to get him. His 2016 stats are 61 tackles, 9 sacks, and 2 pass deflections in 12 games. Tim Williams, another guy the Jets could get, he's listed at 10th, 15th, and 6th. 6th is where the Jets are picking. 31 tackles, 9 sacks, 2 pass deflections in 14 games. Tuckerist McKinley is listed at 16th, 28th, and 9th, and Reuben Foster listed at 11th, 2nd, and 13th. So those are all guys the Jets could draft. But if the Jets don't choose to draft linebackers, they could always go after many linebackers in free agency. The first of which, and this is the one I prefer, is Nick Perry. Now, Nick Perry is on the Packers. He's only 26 years old. He played 14 games last year. He had 1 interception, 4 pass deflections, 11 sacks, 35 solo tackles, 17 assisted tackles, 52 total tackles. All of that, I believe, were record highs for his career. So he's coming off a record high year. And also, I don't know if the Packers can franchise him. I don't know. They probably could. I don't know all about that. I just know that he is listed as a free agent on Spotrac or Spotrac or how you say it. So, but if the Jets can't get him, they could always go after the older veteran, the Pro Bowler, the 2-time Pro Bowler, the 33-year-old Lorenzo Alexander. Now, the reason the Jets might not want to do this is because he is older and he'll only be there for a few years. But if the Jets want to try and make a run, they could. And if they don't, they could try and trade him and get some draft picks. This year he averaged he had 6 pass deflections, 1 interception, 3 forced fumbles, 12.5 sacks, which is his career high, 50 solo, 14 assisted, and 64 total tackles. Many options the Jets can go with at that position. Now, looking at cornerback. Oh, boy. 2016 stats for the Jets cornerbacks. Now, there's only 2 cornerbacks I'm going to mention here. No one else is really worth mentioning. We have Darrelle Revis, of course, the 31-year-old, several-time Pro Bowl, several-time Pro Bowl, several-time, I don't know if he made first-team All-Pro, but in this year, he only played 15 games. He only managed 1 interception, which was in Week 16. It was awesome. Week 17. He had 5 pass deflections, 43 solo tackles, 10 assisted, and 53 total tackles. Now, as you all know, if you're watching the Jets, Revis didn't have the greatest year. He was getting burned by a lot of younger receivers, and he's saying this because he acknowledged that he is declining. The Jets' only other cornerback that I mentioned is Buster Skrine, 27 years old, 1 interception, 6 pass deflections, 1 sack, 39 solo, 9 assisted, 48 total tackles in 2016. So, again, the Jets don't really have that many great cornerbacks. I mean, Skrine is very inconsistent. Same with Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams, I think it is. So, now let's go to options at the cornerback spot. There are many options, and there are many of these. This is the options that I really like. So, let's start off with who the Jets could draft. The first guy the Jets could draft is Marlon Humphrey, who's listed to go 8th, 10th, 12th, 14th, and 19th in 14 games. 14 games. In 14 games, he had 26 solo, 10 assisted, and 36 total tackles, as well as 2 interceptions, 5 pass deflections, and a forced fumble. The Jets, obviously, you need a cornerback. I mean, looking at the league, most of the good teams you need at least like one good cornerback to shut down the team's best wide receiver. Quincy Williams, 11th is listed to go 11th, 16th, 18th, 18th, 24th, and 27th in the mock drafts. In 13 games, he had 18 solo tackles, 15 assisted, 33 total. He also had 1 sack, 3 picks, and 6 pass deflections. And the one I like the most that moved the sticks, I believe, is his Twitter account, or yeah, this is one of the more famous analysts had him going to the Jets at 6, and that's Marshawn Lattimore. He's listed as going at 6, 12, 13, 18, 32nd, and 32nd. Now, in 13 games, he had 30 solo, 11 assisted, 41 total, 4 picks, and 9 pass deflections. Of course, Lattimore had the most interceptions out of those guys. He also had the most pass deflections. He also played in he played in one less game than Humphrey did, and the same amount of games that Wilson did. So Lattimore obviously is very impressive. The Jets could use like a lockdown corner in him, move Revis to safety. We'll talk about that later. But if the Jets want to go after like another cornerback, they could always use free agency. Although free agency for corners this year isn't that amazing. Again, these players in free agency, they are free agents. They may sign with their teams, but they may not as well. Prince Amukamara, 27 years old, and he's played in 14 games. He has 0 picks this year. He had 0 picks, 6 pass deflections, 46 solo tackles, 3 assisted. Captain Munnerlyn, 28 years old, 0 picks, 3 pass deflections, a forced fumble, 38 solo, 17 assisted, 55 total tackles. And A.J. Boye, who was a big part of the Texans defense, 25 years old, 15 games played, 1 interception, 16 pass deflections, 48 solo, 14 assisted, and 62 total tackles. So there are many options for the Jets at cornerback, but the real ones are really the draft, because these guys, I mean, Boye probably signs back. Amukamara could be declining. He had a very kind of a bad year. Munnerlyn probably signs back as well. Now, last but not least, safety. Now, the Jets have 2 decent safeties, in my opinion, or from what I've seen. In terms of, like, their stats, they're decent. But in terms of how they've played this year, not really. And that is Marcus Gilchrist and Calvin Pryor. Now, Marcus Gilchrist is 20 years old. He's in 13 games this year. He had 2 interceptions. He also had 3 pass deflections, a forced fumble, and 38 solo tackles, as well as 15 assisted, which is a total 53 tackles. Now, what's interesting is the Jets can actually opt out of the contract he signed, and they can just let him become a free agent, I believe, which is interesting for the Jets, but they might trade him as well. I mean, they kind of own his contract, so they really, it's like, it's not even a player option, it's a team option, so, yeah. Like, a player can opt out, like how players in basketball opt out of their contracts, the Jets can opt out of the contract with Gilchrist. Now, Calvin Pryor, he's 24 years old, and in 15 games, he had 6 pass deflections, a forced fumble, 43 solos, 17 assisted, and 60 total tackles. So, yeah. Now, moving to options at safety, there are so many options the Jets can do with the current situation. They can stick with Gilchrist and Pryor and hope it works out, although that is kind of a risky option because they didn't really work out that well last year. They could trade one of those two, probably Gilchrist, because Pryor is younger, and they could, I'm sure a team would love to have the contract situation with Gilchrist. They could just let Gilchrist go, which could be foolish, and they could also move Darrelle Revis to safety, which has been kind of a talk. If they just choose to improve the team by the draft, they could go after Jamal Adams. In 12 games, he had 42 solo, 34 assisted, 76 total tackles. He also had 1 interception, 4 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble in 2016. Of course, you could also go after Jabril Peppers and try and see if he plays safety, but he's moved to linebacker, I believe, as I said before. Now, here is where it gets juicy, and that's maybe where the Jets just decide, you know what, Gilchrist isn't worth it. And that is, I forgot how much money it would free up for them. But it would free up enough money for the Jets to go after one of these following guys, which includes Quentin Demps, DJ Swearinger, and the big one, Eric Berry. Now, these guys are all listed to become free agents. I think most of them might sign with their teams, but who knows, maybe one decides, I want to change, and maybe the Jets can snag him up. Now, let's start off with Eric Berry, obviously the best option here. 28 years old, 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. This guy is a stud. In 16 games played last year, he had 4 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 9 pass deflections, a forced fumble, 62 solo, 15 assisted, and 77 total tackles in 2016. Great all-around player. He had plenty of interceptions, of course. And when I mean 2 touchdowns, I mean I believe he had that amazing pick 2 against Matty Ryan and the Falcons. He also had a pick 6 against the Panthers, I believe it was. Now Quinton Demps. Now, back to Eric Berry for a second. He does want to return to the Chiefs, but if he does slip out, maybe the Jets can snag him up. Now moving on to Quinton Demps. He's 31 years old. In 13 games played, he had 6 interceptions, 9 pass deflections, 38 solo tackles, 17 assisted tackles, and 55 total tackles. In 2016, of course. And again, he plays for the Texans. He could be an option. He is getting up there in age. But again, if the Jets want to do something where they sign a bunch of they try and make their team very well rounded, and try to go for something this year. And if they can't get it, they could trade someone like Marshall, Demps, and all those guys. And then the option that could be the best for the Jets, and that is DJ Swearinger. He's only 25 years old, and in 16 games played, he had 3 interceptions, 8 pass deflections, 2 sacks, 56 solo tackles, 8 assisted, and 64 total tackles in 2016. So, he plays for the Cardinals. Now, if the Jets don't get any of these guys, but they do want to get rid of Gilchrist, there are so many solid safety options. I mean, these are the best. These are the elite options. But there's solid options out there in free agency. Like Leon Hall could be a solid option. But overall, that's what the Jets can do. That's how you fix the Jets, or how the Jets can improve. If I'm a Jets fan, I would probably want to go after some of the big names. So yeah. Hopefully the Jets don't screw up this offseason. Hopefully they don't decide they want to draft the quarterback. Hopefully they go for Marshall Lattimore, in my opinion, or maybe an offensive tackle. We haven't even seen Hackenberger yet, so yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This is not supposed to be 22 minutes long, but I'm kind of glad I split these into 2. Otherwise, a 48-minute video would be a pain in the neck to edit. But thank you for watching. Great day to all of you. Goodbye.